How's it going, world? This is Tyson Paul, and this is We Only Last with Tyson Paul, the show where we get some of your favorite comics and talk about comedy from the very beginning all the way to the very end. This week we have a very special guest. This person you've seen on Wild 'N Out, you've seen on Smash and Dash, both MTV shows, and she has a weekly podcast called That Time of the Week. She's also a celebrity roaster and has written for the celebrity roast of Alec Baldwin and Ric Flair. Let's give it up for Buffalo, New York's very own Miss Maddy Smith. How's it going, Maddy?
Hey, what's up? I'm good. Thank you for having me.
No problem. You're definitely one of our favorite comedians at We Only Last. We're shocked most of the time that you say things, probably because we couldn't imagine a person like you really doing comedy. So we're gonna actually get into that. But let's start it off with, what's the funniest thing you've seen lately?
Recently, probably just like Trump's administration falling apart. It's really funny to watch. I feel like when he got elected in 2016, I was just like, just wait. It's not sustainable. And I think Mike Pence, like cutting ties with him this week, is like the final, like it's over. It feels good to watch. And I'm not a big political guru, but it's funny to watch it all crumble.
Yeah, it's definitely a good way to sell out friends. Like act like you never met them at all and everything. So when things pop off, it's just like, yeah, man, I don't even know like why he was acting like that. We weren't really friends like that. We were just work colleagues and stuff. So
totally.
But that's crazy. So, being from Buffalo, New York, actually being in New York, you know, comedy is basically like a bloodline through there. So, just tell me some of your first memories of comedy in general. Like, how do you feel like you discovered comedy?
Well, my first memories were kind of just like running around New York City doing open mics, because you know New York City is like the center of comedy, so there's like 50 different open mics you can do every night. And so my first memories were just like grinding it out 4 mics a night until like 2 a.m. Kind of like meeting people, being funny, meeting more people, and just snowballing from there, having panic attacks but also like getting excited about doing well and stuff like that. My first memories were of being very excited about comedy. It's so fun at the beginning. It's still fun. When you start, everything's funny. You have so many ideas, and it was very exciting to me.
Okay, and so you just recently started comedy about like less than 5 years ago. Were you always wanting to be a stand-up comic, or was it just something more like, okay, like I think I'm funny, like let's try this out and see?
I was always like the funny one in the friend group growing up, but I never knew like how to even pursue a comedy career. I wasn't like encouraged to go into creative fields growing up. Well, when you grow up in like the suburbs, they're like, no, you got to get a money making, like they don't, unless you have rich parents, it's really hard to tell your parents I'm going into a creative field. So I didn't, and then I moved to New York City and was just alone here. And so I was like, I'm here and my parents are far away, so no one can disapprove if I do this and fail at it. It's a very anonymous place because there's so many people. So then I just went for it.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. Like, I kind of have a similar story, like with you. Like, I always wanted to be a stand-up comic, but just never knew how to get into it. And I was one of those naive people that, because I'm from the West Coast, I was really one of those naive people that I literally thought that, like, the only way you could be a stand-up comic is by graduating from college.
Literally.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was literally like half the time I was going to school, like I was like, I just need to hurry up and get done with this so I can go be a stand-up comic. And then like I kind of found out that you could be a comic at literally 12 years old.
So true.
And I was just like, I've been wasting my time here. Well, I wasn't wasting my time because college was a great experience. But yeah,
definitely
it was crazy.
Not a waste of time. It's not a waste of time because you don't want to be a young guy who's like, I didn't go to college. I'm meant to do this. Like, no one wants to hang out with a 17-year-old. You want to be like the 20s guy who everyone thinks is normal. You don't want to be the 17-year-old doing comedy, in my opinion. No one wants to.
Yeah,
That's
nah.
really
Nobody,
fun.
nobody wants to be that Richard Pryor guy that like it was either here or the whorehouse. Like, so I can't do
Totally.
that. So I can't do that. But um, while I said I'm a really big fan of yours when we were kind of off air doing this, and the reason why I'm a big fan of yours is like you're what we like to call like a risk taker. Like you say things that nobody would ever like think a person that looks like you would say and stuff. So I kind of wonder like, okay, the first night when you were doing stand up and you did your jokes, like were people more shocked or were people like, okay, that was pretty fucking funny.
Um, People weren't shocked because if you were to ever watch like a stand-up set, it's not that shock. I mean, I've said some shocking roast jokes and stuff on Wild 'N Out and stuff, but my stand-up set isn't. I'm not like an edgelord when I do
Mm.
stand-up. I'm not like, uh-oh. I mean, I do like make fun of guys and
Yeah.
I go in crowd work and kind of do crowd work and make fun of people in the crowd. But when I
Mm.
do stand up, I'm kind of just like doing personal jokes with heavy punchlines.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't identify as the person who I wouldn't identify as a shock value
Mm.
comedian because to me a shock value comic is like Andrew Dice Clay, and
Yeah.
I would put I in the same category. But I also agree that I don't have that much fear when it
Mm.
comes to. And I'm not someone who's like defend racial slurs, and I'm not not that kind of fear. But
Yeah.
like I don't have limits when it comes to what I say because I also know ethically I would never say anything cancel worthy. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
like I feel like some people are afraid of taking risks because they're afraid of how far they'll go because they don't.
Mm.
But I know what the edge is, so that's
Yeah.
why I'm like, oh, let's push it, and it makes things funnier. I mean, comedy is about saying what people are thinking, but no one wants to say. So I never thought of it as like, oh, I'm doing the edgy thing. I always was just like, oh, here's my first thought, and it's gonna come out now.
Yeah. Hey, were you always like that before comedy? Like, were you like when you were just basically like just being a friend or being a family member? Were you always like the one like that your parents had to sit there and tell, like, hey, look, before we walk in here, please don't say anything.
um, that's the cool thing about me is I never said it out loud unless I was with my confidants. I
Mm,
never I wasn't ever boisterous or like, oh, there's the inappropriate cousin. I always like said it in my head. But
yeah.
if there, like when you leave a party and you're with your friends and you're like, that was whack, that's when I say my shit. But I have a strong etiquette, so I never
Mhm.
say it unless I'm on a comedy show. But in parties and family events, I keep that shit to my close, my inner circle. You know.
Yeah, yeah, but I think that's like the great thing about comedy too, because like back when I started, probably like 15 years ago, like comedy was
Hmm.
like basically it was the wild wild west. Like you could say
Yeah.
whatever, and people weren't like really like too like politically correct about it. And then now it's kind of
Totally.
changed, like where like anything you say from
Right.
10 years ago till now like can be held against you and stuff.
Right.
When as you evolved as a stand-up comic, like what did you like? What helped you like kind of like get your bearings and basically like form like an actual persona about yourself in comedy?
I kind of just like lead with my personal experiences. Um, so it's all about like my upbringing and then drinking in college and now a single stuff for a long time. And now I have a boyfriend, so I make fun of him. So it's kind of like every day, he's so easy. And then kind of like every day I sit down and I'm like, oh, what's funny? Oh, what's funny about quarantine life? It's very day by day. I'm not a
Mm,
very observational comic. Like I'm not
mm.
Seinfeld. I would never be like, so popcorn's crazy. I would literally never do that. It's
Yeah.
mostly just like and I find when you do like the personal narrative, it's more natural. And when I'm on stage, it's just me being me.
Mm.
Which I find to be pretty easy. Um, so that was how I kind of came into I just kind of like write what tickled me that day and just went with that.
Yeah, that works. So being in New York, like basically like where there's probably like a comedy club and stuff around every corner. Just tell me a little bit about the New York scene, because I'm from the West Coast, so I know our scene out here, like basically like LA is like right up the street. So, but we're more relaxed and like basically we don't.
Right.
I wouldn't say we grind as hard as a New York comic.
Yeah.
Like a New York comic, they
Yeah.
like. They'll do a New York comic will do a show during their lunch break, 15 minutes. Like, oh, I gotta go hop over here, and they'll go across town or across the city, like just to like get 4 or 5 minutes and stuff. But like out here, like you couldn't even pay like most LA comics to walk across the street for 5 minutes. So tell me a little bit about like the difference that you see in between New York comics and everywhere else.
You know what? Everyone, here's my take on LA comics since the pandemic started. Sure, they don't grind on stand-up, but they all have like successful podcasts and have been on TV shows. So,
yeah.
The value of the grind really fell off last March, and then every comedian with a podcast out there was like, "It doesn't change me." So I was like, I feel bad. I was like, "Oh, LA comics are lazy," until like March 2020, and I was like, "Oh shit, they all have like 50,000 followers. They all have their little brand." So
we fake it. We fake it. We fake it till we make it. We're the kings of faking it till it looks like it. So we're good at our job.
Well, that's the difference in LA and New York. Don't fake. We all hate ourselves. So there's no faking it. We're all like, oh, I shouldn't start a podcast. I suck. Whereas LA, you have more of like no, let's put on, and I respect that so much. You gotta put the image forward, and then people follow. Where New York, we're a little more anxious. We're all like Woody Allen running around here. But I do think that the opportunity of like a million shows a night and so many comedy clubs and the transportation that allows you to get to 4 shows a night feeds the anxiety that New York comedians have of like, oh, I'm not doing enough. And then if you do 4 sets a night, you're like, I'm doing enough. So it kind of like the scene creates that anxiety of, there's so many stages, there's so many comics posting about all their shows tonight. The more shows I have, the better I feel. It's like a currency here. Whereas in LA, I don't think the currency is as much stage time.
We don't care. We don't care if you do 8 shows. Like if none of them are on TV. Or
I love it.
None of them are like popular. It's like, yeah, you did 8 shows, but like, how did that get you a TV deal, or how did that get you like 1,000 views on social media or anything like that? So
honestly, that's not something I thought about until months ago. There's like value of social media and digital stuff, and maybe I wish I started sooner, but I don't know. It's good to learn during the quarantine and then come out of this with hopefully a leg up. It's hard. It's harder, I think, than doing 6 shows a night.
Yeah. Well, no, but actually, I mean, you've only been doing stand-up for 5 years, but you've actually kind of got a career that most people have been chasing like their entire lives. Like, because, I mean, you were on Wild 'N Out for 2 seasons when you basically stole the show, like, every time you, like, appeared and stuff. Like, because, you were the new Jacob Williams. I'm pretty sure they said. Right. Like, you were the new Jacob Williams all the time, except for your mouth was a lot dirtier than Jacob's. And I mean, you did other shows on MTV as well, and you also wrote you did celebrity roasting. You were a writer and you were also a celebrity roaster. So I mean, just like having that career right now, did you think that was normal, or were you just like, okay, I'm really lucky, like this is my chance?
I think I'm super lucky, incredibly lucky. I also did feel like, I think like year 2.5 of comedy, I was like, oh shit, we're kicking, we're snowballing. And I could kind of feel like within a couple years, something big might happen. And I could kind of just feel it, because especially, and I don't want to say it's only because I'm a woman, but if you're a woman in comedy, there's so few of us that if you do well all the time and you're versatile, you can move up pretty quickly. So and I don't want to blame it only on my gender, but I've had biological opportunities that have allowed me to move up. And then, of course, Wild 'N Out, being like a white girl roaster, allowed me
Mm,
to be the edgy new girl. And I'm
mm,
thankful for the time and place. If I had missed the Instagram story that showed me that Wild 'N Out was looking for roast
mm,
battlers,
mm.
I don't know where I'd be right now. So I think about
Oh,
that every day. I'm like so thankful that
yeah.
that happened because before Wild 'N Out, I was working 9 to 5 and doing all those shows every night. I was
Mm,
exhausted. I was like depressed because you're just so tired. You can't keep up
mm,
with your lifestyle. And now I
mm,
have free time, and it's now I feel more like I'm a professional comedian, and it's a really cool feeling.
mm.
I do feel like this is probably the lifestyle of someone who's 10 years in, but I'm thankful for every single day. Every time I find myself complaining, I'm like, stay thankful because people would kill for this.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Like, and I'm pretty sure, like when you were going through, like basically working the 9 to 5 and then still doing the shows, like, I mean, it was exhausting, but you kind of felt like, oh, this is like what I gotta go through. Because I mean, you've heard so many
Totally.
other stories of comics, like like it took me 20 years to get to this
Right.
point, and then you're like, well, it only took me a year and a half. So
Right.
so thank you, but like, okay,
Totally.
so I think what one thing like comics don't really talk about, and as we should, is about like mental health and like being on the grind. And you just said that you basically had to battle depression while you were doing
Yeah.
like your 9 to 5 and your and the gigs at night. Like, were you depressed
Yeah.
like because you felt like this was like something you want to do and it just wasn't going anywhere, or like were you just depressed because like you were just exhausted, or what was the case?
It was mostly the exhaustion, and I feel like and I was also because I didn't tell my job that I did stand up. So I was exhausted. So I was making mistakes at work and they didn't know why. So I had my job thinking I'm like a stupid 26-year-old who makes mistakes all the time. Whereas I could have been like, you guys don't even know I'm a rising comedian and I'm crushing it nightly, but you guys think I'm really stupid. And that messed with my like daily self-esteem and having to wake up every day and commute. It's so exhausting. And I feel like when you're tired, you can't work out, you can't eat healthy, you can't write, you can't have healthy relationships, and it just feeds into each other. And so that was it was mostly like a physical depression of
Mm.
like, if I don't end, I'm gonna die soon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I can totally relate because like I even, well, I still like battle with depression and stuff like that to this day, but it's just like it comes and goes. Like you'll like because
Yeah,
when I first started doing stand up, that's all I wanted to do. I would go anywhere and
right.
basically do it, and I
Totally.
thought like I thought like you would be famous that next day. Like no matter where you went, like somebody was gonna
Right.
be there, and then all of a sudden you were gonna blow up, and then like
Right.
years started to get in, and then like different failures like basically in
Yeah.
comedy like came and took its toll, and then like you'll have like friends and family that just like basically like they support you, but then also they want you to be more realistic, and you can't really tell
Yeah.
somebody that's dreaming like in that way that they need to be more realistic because like they've
Yeah.
seen so many other people basically like make it, and just like they just
Yeah.
just had to put the work in, and then you're always, as a comic, it's like your number one advice is just like just keep grinding and just keep putting the work
That's
in, and
it.
it'll work out
Yeah.
for you. But nobody really ever tells you like all the like negativity that comes with it, or the anxiety, especially if you bomb. Like I thought
Oh,
like bombing is like, with the first like 5 or 6 years I did comedy, I thought bombing was the worst thing. I was so depressed. Like I would be depressed for like
it's
3 days because I bombed.
oh, I know. It's absolutely horrendous. It's the worst feeling. The fact that we have to go through it or risk going through it every time we perform.
Mm-hmm.
It's you have to build an insanely thick skin doing this. People don't understand. by the time someone sees a Netflix special, they don't understand the number of bombs that comedian has gone through
Oh yeah.
to
Yeah.
get there. You just see the final product. You're like, Bill Burr is so funny. He has bombed thousands of times in his life. You don't even know what he's
Yeah.
dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
more people had to go through this, the suicide rate would be through the roof because it's absolutely humiliating as a career.
Well, yeah, no, and then like I said, like you got to deal with like family and friends, like they constantly because
Yeah.
they don't know that they're really like being negative toward you. They just think like, oh, like you're a
Yeah.
comedian, you should take this joke. Like, because how many times have you
Right.
sat there and told like a family member or friend that you're a comic, you're a stand-up comic, and then they're like, oh, like, well, are you funny? Like, like, or they'll ask when your next show is, don't show up.
Dude, the number of people who are like, let me know when your next show is. Bitch, I post them every day. Don't even, you know? Oh my God. It grinds my gears. People who, the empty promises of coming to see shows. When people say, are you funny? I literally just say no, because.
Not at all.
Why the
No.
No, my title is comedian, and I'm like, fuck off.
Yeah.
I hate the blatant disrespect for the craft is like through the roof lately, especially because I think social media, people think that they're funny because they identify as a funny person on Twitter or whatever. So if you tell them you're a comedian, it hurts them to their core.
Yeah, definitely. I'm like, oh, so you funny? So you like a comedian funny, or you just like a regular person funny? Like, I don't know what the difference is, but all right, but yeah, I can totally agree with you on the excuses like that people give, like, or they ask you when's your next show, and it's funny because like people don't even think about the excuse they give you when they're giving it to you. Like, how many like you probably had this happen a lot. Like somebody was like, oh, I forgot, or like that show already passed. Like, no, man, it's next week. Oh, yeah, man, I was gonna go to it. It's like, no, man, it's still next week.
I'll give you tickets. Oh man, I totally my mistake.
Can't. Oh man, like, oh man. I had a girl one time on, like, she told me the reason why she couldn't come to the show, she almost died.
Oh my God!
Like,
just don't even say anything.
Yeah, just say you couldn't make it. Just say you couldn't make it. She
Literally.
was like, I almost died. She was like, no, because like the worst people are the people that really try and get you to believe their excuse. Like, no, I almost died. I'm allergic to peanuts, and like somebody gave me some M&Ms, and like I choked, and like I had to go to the hospital. I swear, I got my stomach pumped. I almost died.
Right.
Like,
as if we were standing on stage, wondering where are they? As if the show will not continue.
Yeah.
You know what the worst is? I'm dealing with this situation, and someone will say they're coming to a show, and I'll say, okay, cool, see you there. And then they don't show up, and then they don't talk to me ever again because they feel shame that they didn't make it. That's like the white person version. Is they're afraid. So I'm just losing friends because they don't know how to. So I have like no friends left because they all promised and then didn't make. As if I give a fuck. I don't care if you're there. I'd rather you not there because I don't want your opinion of my comedy after the show.
That's like a person taking your parking spot. It's like a person taking your parking spot, and then like they just act like they don't see you for the rest of the day. Like,
literally.
dude, man, like it's all right, man. It's a parking spot.
Okay.
I found another spot. It's okay.
Life goes on.
Okay. Yeah,
it's so true.
Yeah. So. Okay, so you already told me like a little bit about how you got your start on Wildin' Out. Basically, you saw an Instagram story and you basically responded to it. Okay, so what was the process like for you being a celebrity roaster? Because I kind of know, because I've already had friends and stuff like that made earlier seasons of Wildin' Out, and they kind of tell you like it's just like an audition. They basically, and this was like the early like first like 3 or 4 seasons. They tell you that you just go in, you audition, they put you through some stuff, and then you know whatever. But then it got different when the show got rebooted, and like they more looked for social media type of personalities and stuff. So how did the audition process go for you, since you basically got discovered through social media?
The audition process for me was a little different. So there was so someone I know posted about Wildin' Out looking for battle rappers and roast battlers. So and then there was an email, so I emailed. And at that time, I had 3,000 followers. So I'm literally nobody. So I had to fucking kill every day of that workshop, which was, for me, with someone with like anxiety. I can't, if I had to do that again, I don't know if I'd be able to. But so it was a little different for me because I knew I didn't have the following. So what do I bring to the show? Definitely not new viewers because I'm a nobody. But there was like other people in the audition who came in with like 5 million followers. So it was interesting to be up against those kind of people and very intimidating. And it was also like, oh shit, social media matters. So I didn't really have social media when I came in, but other people did, definitely.
And then, so when you finally made it on the show and stuff, how did you find how did you come to yourself to just be like, all right, so this is what I'm gonna do on the show, like basically, like I'm just gonna do this, or basically throw all fear to the side and basically just say what, like I gotta say, and then hopefully win everybody over. Because like, I mean, the things that you said and stuff on the show, like they did use you a lot and stuff.
Yeah.
So like the things that you said on the show were clicking, and I know like during the taping of Wild 'N Out, they don't always use like people's stuff. I mean, they give everybody a chance to shine, but they don't use their stuff.
They cut a lot. It's a 22-minute episode, and we filmed for like an hour and a half. So on top of I have to be funny, you're like, oh, I also have to get on TV. So, oh, can you hear me? So you're going on, and I don't know. I kind of was just myself. I was like, oh, here's this game. Here's how I'm gonna play it, and I really was just myself. And the producers just said, really, just keep being you. Don't change anything. So there wasn't a lot of thought, honestly. And that's the same with stand up. I kind of just go up there and myself. So that's that. It's a really boring story. But
actually, the boring works.
Yeah.
Like boring works for you.
I know.
She's like, I don't know how, because like in a way, you're just kind of like, I don't know how these people like me. Like they just do.
I think the first episode I did was my edgiest joke, and I thought it was gonna get me canceled. But I think but I saw it posted on social media, and I saw a lot of comments that were like, "She's hilarious." I love that she took it that far, but it was the joke where I was like, hey, E-Man, I'm sorry, I forget your name. I mix it up because you all look the same. As a joke, obviously. A joke about how white people say, you know, like it was in cheek, but in that moment, I was like, it's over for me. But like,
go big or go home.
And that was the first episode I filmed, and the audience cracked up, and like it got a huge reaction. People were like, what the fuck? And then that's when I knew like you can take it to a place as long as you smile and know like it's a playful. Because the only way I can be like as funny as I can is if I know I can go places. If I had to do like full corny, I don't know if I would pop off as much as I did.
Yeah.
So it's like go ahead.
Yeah, it did kind of, because like the way I was watching it and then watching you throughout the 2 seasons, like I kind of like, it was funny because like you towed the line, but you never like overstepped and stuff. Because like I think one of your funniest ones was when you did the Ariana Grande award. And you basically like shitted on all black people as well and stuff. And then and then when you did it, because it was like, oh man, like she really going there. But it is kind of funny. I was like, she only one word away from getting fired, and then she didn't get fired. So it was cool though. But yeah, you were habitual line stepper.
I know. You know what? That's how. And I think it's because I started with roast battle in New York City, where people will call you a slut, a whore, autistic, fucking ugly, and maybe it's just because I went from that to Wild 'N Out, and Wild 'N Out's just like TV friendly. But I came to Wild 'N Out with this like roast battle background, and I'm like, go hard or go home. So I think that's what happened, is I got so used to roast battle where white male comics are so fucking mean that that's what I thought I had to bring to Wild 'N Out. And then, so.
Yeah, they do that. They do that out here. They do the roast battle, like how they do the roast battle. Oh yeah, no, they white comics in roast battle is just savage. They're the Michael Jordan of roast battles, right? Like out here, they don't care. They don't care. They will step on your neck. None.
It's fucking whack, and it's so crazy, and they're so hurtful. And like when I'm roasting, it's playful. They believe what they're saying, and they like it. They like saying what they're not allowed to say in their regular stand-up. And I think all white men should not do roast battle. I think it should just be between, the oppressed folks. Not putting myself on like this, but white guys roast battling is a problem.
Yeah, I feel like most of the white comics that do roast battle also storm the Capitol. Like, so that gets weird.
The Venn diagram is a circle.
Yeah, I think so. We like, I wouldn't be surprised if you see a few roast battlers in there and stuff. But okay, so Wildin' Out. Okay, so you were on Wildin' Out. It all of a sudden just got canceled, or I wouldn't say got canceled. It just ended abruptly. And so, what was it like? What was it like finding out that the show was ending? And like, did you agree with how the show ended, or do you feel like, kind of without stepping on any toes, like, do you feel like it could have, like, things could have been different?
Yeah, I mean, what was it like for me? First of all, we were supposed to film last May, but then the pandemic shut that down. So, and then in August was when the Viacom thing happened, and I don't know. I feel like any sort of thing like that there's always going to be a wrong way. I don't really understand what happened. I don't read a lot of entertainment news, and then all of a sudden I'm like going to bed and I get a notification about Viacom and Nick Cannon, and I'm like, what that's my boss. What is going on here? And then I don't know. I think that the ties can be tied. I think they could have been tied. I think that they could have worked on it without publicly having an altercation. I don't know if it had to be publicized like that, because now every Wildin' Out fan doesn't know what's going on with the show, and MTV lost one of its biggest shows. It's that and Ridiculous right now. So it didn't seem it didn't seem that strategic, and Nick Cannon is such a powerhouse that publicly doing that is, I think, just economically a risky endeavor. So that's my stance, but I do think that it will come back and the ties will be tied back, in my opinion, because it's such a hit show.
Yeah, no, because I did read somewhere that they are, like, I mean, I think time heals all wounds, and I think I did read somewhere where they like are talking about like bringing the show back and stuff. Like, cause in a way, like I always thought Wildin' Out was our SNL. Like, in a way, like it was our generation of SNL. Like, basically like how your parents in the early 70s and the 80s like had SNL and had all the all-stars from that cast, and then like as a teenager you grow up with SNL like from 90 to 99, and then 2000 like the Will Ferrell years. But then like once Wildin' Out hit, like that was like for us that was basically like everybody, like if you were a comic you wanted to be on Wildin' Out. You wanted to be on Wildin' Out more than you wanted to be on SNL. And then it's crazy because SNL took some of the people from Wildin' Out and put it on SNL and stuff. So I feel like it will get worked out because money evolves and money changes everything. So like,
money is king.
And then like you said, nothing is on MTV. I think I maybe I watched the challenge or Ridiculousness, but other than that, don't watch anything else really except for Wildin' Out. Like, and then on YouTube now, people still watch Wildin' Out clips on YouTube more than they would watch a regular MTV show. So
day after day, I get notifications on my Wildin' Out clips, and this is to say no hate to Viacom, as I am an employee. But I do think it's a valuable show to the network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically when they bring Wildin' Out back, hosted by Maddy Smith, Like you won't have no hard feelings towards Nick, right?
That would be crazy if they did that. That would be like a hate crime to bring a white girl on as
They've done worse. They've done worse. They took music videos off there, so they took music videos off MTV, so they'll definitely have you host Wildin' Out and stuff. So, but since Wildin' Out went off, and then like you were basically doing shows all over the East Coast, and then the pandemic hit. So, the pandemic kind of hits because we knew how the pandemic was like on the West Coast. Like basically, it was just like March 12th came. And then everything changed and stuff. But like, how was it? How was it for you guys, like on the East Coast, especially for somebody like you who, like, okay, you had credentials and everything like that, and you're also an amazing writer. So, like, did the COVID or like did everything like kind of impact you in a way that you like saw some of your other fellow comedians? Like was it really? What were your thoughts?
It sucked ass. March through August, worst 6 months of my fucking life. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I don't mean to swear on the podcast, but if I had to do that all over again, it was really hard. And it was, you're trying to save it. You're like, okay, just a couple weeks and then I'll get back to my gigs. Wildin' Out films in May, so we should be cleared up by then. You're telling yourself lies, but you're going down the rabbit hole of like, oh, the guy on Joe Rogan said it's going to be 2 years of this, and you're like, well, he's wrong. He's so right, So it was that back and forth between comforting yourself and facing reality, and it took me a while to finally say, actually, it took me to therapy for my therapist to say, stop saying when this is over. Pretend this is your life from now on, and then you can focus on your projects, and then if it comes back, it comes back. But I kept doing this, like, when this is over, I'll be able to stop. Just do your little digital stuff, and then when stand-up comes back, you focus on that. But March through August was a rough transition for me. I mean, I had credits, but I didn't, like, episodes of Wildin' Out didn't really start airing until quarantine, so I kind of went in quarantine. At the beginning of January, I was like, awesome, Wildin' Out's going to air, and then I'm going to fucking pop off. I'm going to get booked so hard. I'm going to tour. March hit, and I was like, wow, terrible time. So then my followers came, and I had to, like, entertain them with, like, quarantine content from my dirty apartment, and it was like, oh, humiliating. But I think they grew with me, so... I'm thankful that the quarantine kind of gave me like a reset on my mental health, but it was whack as fuck. That's all I'm going to say. The fact that we had to do every day, I think this is fucking ridiculous. That's what I think every day.
And you had a relationship most of the quarantine?
Yeah, Andrew and I have been together 2.5 years now.
Oh man,
we spent a day together.
He's probably like, yeah, it was the worst 6 months for me, but it was because I had to deal with her while she was going through her shit 6 months.
I can't. Props to him because I'm a moody ass motherfucker, but and do you have a girlfriend?
Yes, and yes. Hi, Jamie.
Isn't it hard every day, no matter how much you love that person? Knowing every day is gonna, and you don't have to say anything, but I'm just gonna say it's not a normal lifestyle, especially in a New York City apartment.
It was I would say that like our pandemic, we had our ups and downs. Like I mean, we were just, and she's a nurse, so my pandemic might have been a little bit worse. Like it was the cleanest pandemic of all time, but like we had our ups and downs and stuff because she was still doing her normal thing and stuff like that, being essential, but like I wasn't really doing as much, and like everybody gets to a breaking point. She was even saying like, this comedy thing's not gonna work out for you. Like you need to think of something else, and like shows aren't really happening anymore. You're not producing shows like you were like a year or so ago. She's like, this ain't really working. Like you might have to think of something else. And it also, that kind of led me to be a little bit into a depression because like she was saying that. So like if your significant other saying that, it's just like, dang, like, you know what am I doing? Like, maybe they'll come back. And I was just like you. Oh, it's not gonna last till the summer. It's not gonna like whatever and stuff. And then I think I just like I got motivated by what she was saying, because like I took it at first. I took it as like basically negativity. Like I was like, man, you're just being negative, and then we might not have to work out. But then also I had to look into myself, and it's just like, well, you gotta like have the tables turn. Like, what if she was doing this and you were like basically working your ass off and shit like that? So you got to kind of like understand where she's coming from. Like, I don't think she meant it in a hateful way most times. Sometimes she did.
Yeah.
But like it's like I said, people don't really understand comedy unless you're in it. So so she just, we deal with it. We got through it. We're still getting through it. So it goes. Definitely. It goes. It's an up and down cycle. But yeah, no.
It's
really
relationships
hard.
And every it feels like every month that goes by in quarantine, you're like, I'm still holding out for being a performer. It feels so selfish that you're just like holding on by like over. Trying to grasp whatever you can.
Oh yeah. No, we got the way I got motivated, I was like, look, I'm gonna just find an empty parking lot, start doing shows out of there, and then just try and do shows like here and there throughout the state and everything. So like it's basically all like coming back together. And then on top of that, you also just like got to start getting into other projects and like use this time wisely, like you said and stuff. So I didn't get to go to the therapist though, because I can't afford to have somebody talk to me and stuff.
I get it. I support that.
Yeah, I mean, I probably have to find a college student who's like trying to be a therapist, and I'll be like, look, I need your free time. You can also use this as basically learning and stuff. So
totally,
But writing in the pandemic. Okay, so I know that writing in the pandemic for you was like kind of ups and downs, but what have you gotten through so far? Like, and then also like, have you thought about other ways that you like improved in your writing?
I try to write, just like jot funny stuff down and go with it. I kind of like got away from like writing for stand-up, and I kind of just jot funny stuff down. I'm on TikTok lately. I've actually I honestly, and this app is like incredible because the reach is beyond anything that I've done on Instagram. Like, got millions of views. What is going on here? So I kind of like jot down a funny thought, post it on TikTok, get 1 million views, and you're like, oh, that'll be good to bring to the stage someday. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or this TikTok is good. You like get followers on TikTok, post clip, and you're like, okay, so then they'll come from there. So I think what I'm working on right now is just writing for my social media audience, which is just like little tiny one-liners, which has been actually working really well. But I haven't been focusing as much on stand-up as much. I have shows every so often, but they're not often enough for me to be like, oh, I wrote an hour a day for this. It's so few shows that you just kind of do old stuff and then go home.
Mm-hmm. So with you being a celebrity, with you being a writer for celebrity roast and stuff, is it easier to write for other people or is it harder?
I thought it was easier. I had I don't know, when I was writing for the Ric Flair roast, the jokes were coming obviously that was some easy people to write for. Ric Flair and all those wrestlers are very easy targets, so maybe that's why. But I was like, oh my god, I'm crushing it. But I also think just I was writing so the stakes were low. When I'm writing for myself, I'm like, that will suck. But for other people, I'm like, no, that's fire. So I do think that it's maybe when I write for myself from now on, I should pretend it's another person. Because when I tag other people's jokes, I'm like, oh my god, I'm a genius. When I edit other people's stuff, I feel so good. But for my own, it's so much harder. So yeah, writing for other people I think is easier than yourself.
And then have you started thinking about with the pandemic and everything, have you even thought about writing as far as TV pilots and movie scripts? Have you thought about doing that yourself?
pilot. I haven't touched it in a while, but between those two, not my biggest focus. I think my biggest focus right now is social media and my podcast. I write for my podcast too. I do monologue jokes, so that takes a chunk of time every week. So I kind of am just more focused on that and mostly seeing like how famous someone like Andrew Schultz is now. You're just like, oh, I can do this all on. If I focus on social media, then later on someone will ask for my movie script, and then I'll be able to sit down it. But right now, it doesn't seem like the best use of time. And I also feel like not. I don't know, the writing. I think I don't. It's just not my passion right now.
Okay. And then, so with you doing like basically being more involved in social media and stuff, and then also you started your own podcast at that time of the week. Okay. So with that being your podcast, like what was it like for you adjusting from like the stage to like basically doing podcasts? Like, cause I already know like before you started it, you kind of had a thought in your mind, just basically like, all right, kind of gonna be like next Joe Rogan or something like that. So, like, how hard is it adjusting to doing podcasts?
It's hard. The first two, I was like, oh, I am awful at this, but I've only out now. But I noticed that every one I do, I grow stronger. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm controlling the room. I don't feel as awkward. I'm feeling good. And with each one, I get a little bit more confident. I also do solo podcasts on my Patreon. And I think doing all of those helps you just like with confidence on the mic. But it's hard. It's a different, and hosting a podcast, conducting the interviews and keeping things on. It's very hard. People don't give talk show hosts enough credit.
No. Or radio disc jockeys.
In my opinion. Or I know it's such an art. But I do think I'm getting better. I do think I went in thinking it would be easier. And the first episode, I was like, oh, I suck at this. But I'm getting stronger. And that's the downfall of stand-up comedians is they think they can do every other like art, and they can't right away at least.
Yeah, we definitely think it's easy for us to do other things. It's like, man, I could just go up there and BS. Or I can just like get on there and BS that whole thing. And then you do that first episode, like, damn, I'm trash. It makes you contemplate comedy. like man, I might need to quit comedy.
I know. And we watch SNL, people do impressions. We're like, I could do that. We watch people do improv. I could do that. Shut up. You can do one thing and it's telling jokes and just so we have, and I think it's from an insecurity place. We see people do impressions and you're like, oh, well, I'm going to tell myself I could have done that just so I don't feel like someone else is also good at comedy.
Yeah, no. So with the state of the world being what it is right now, basically we're so attached to being politically correct. Have you toned down a little bit of what you said comedy wise and stuff, or have you felt like you needed to?
Have I toned down?
Yeah, or have you felt like you needed to tone down or needed to?
Not really. Like I said, I kind of like trust myself to go with the flow. And unless I'm roasting, I don't say anything too crazy. So, no. I will say seeing a ton of people get canceled in 2020 has made me think more before I post something. Before I tweet, I'm like, all right, let's hold off for a second. But other than that, no, I don't have a ton of edgy takes. I don't feel like my freedom of speech is being taken away from me like a lot of people do for some reason. So I haven't really toned down. I think I just got smarter as a writer and don't go for the low-hanging fruit as much anymore.
And then, so when comedy returns, like, because hopefully eventually in the next like 2 years or so, comedy clubs and stuff will be able to be reopened and stuff. Like, are you gonna get irritated when you hear people basically just telling jokes about their life in the pandemic or like whatever's political at the time?
I don't think so. I think for like a year after the pandemic's over, I'm going to be very gentle with other comedians. I'm going to say, I get it. You do you. We all work at our own pace. We all have different takes. maybe I will, but I also don't even like when I'm at a show and there's other stand-ups on stage, I can't have ADD, so I can't even process what they're saying. So
Mm,
I don't think so. I mean, it'll
mm.
be fresh to hear quarantine jokes rather than like my friend's bitch, you know. I'll take that over
Yeah.
that. So
Would you like to see more women doing comedy as soon as the pandemic's like kind of over?
yeah, that'd be cool. There's not enough of us. There's like one woman for every 100 comedians. So definitely need more women, but it's just such a hard grind, and so many women are just and like I'm good. But hopefully it can grow. There's definitely way more women than there were in the 90s, so it can only go up.
Yeah. So wait, why do you think? Why do you feel like there's just not enough women in stand up?
I don't know. I feel like um, it's just not something that I don't know. I think it's a very male-oriented thing, and it's not a lot of women have their first thing. I just feel like women are more like have different passions than getting up on stage and talking. I think for men, they're like, I want to do that. I want people to hear what I have to say. Whereas women are like, I'm good, and but I'm gonna do a different job, and I'm gonna feel awesome about it. I feel like I think it's less about how few women there are and more about how many men there are. It's like for men, it's like it's in my core to be a funny person. Whereas there's less women who think that.
Well, I kind of feel like the reason why women aren't in the stand-up comedy as much as they should be. I think it's like you said, like they do have other opportunities, but also it's an attention thing. Like, cause a lot of comics,
Yeah.
you know, we basically do stand up, you know, because we're trying to find the attention that we never got, like growing up
Yeah,
and stuff. So we want all
totally.
eyes to be on us. So, but with women, I mean, you'll have either the woman that craves all the attention or you have the woman that doesn't want the attention at all. So, like,
Yeah.
basically, with stand-up comedy, though, it's kind of, and then on top of that, women like to tell jokes, but it's like, okay, don't laugh at me that much because now it's creepy. so, so I think with men,
Yeah.
though, like, we're chasing that dream that, like, men
Yeah.
are we'll do stand up all day because it's like, all right, that gives me my time to shine. It's my spotlight. I'm the MVP.
Yep.
Like with women, it's just like I just do it because I love it, and you know
Yeah.
that's it. I don't really want to go no further because if you think about it, a lot of women like
Totally.
really don't care if they're famous or not.
I agree. I think it's more of a man thing. I've met a lot of men who are like depressed because they're like, I should have been famous by now. And I'm like, for what? You don't do anything. And it's something, you know what I also think for guys growing up, there's so many male comedians. So they'll see them on
Mm,
screen and say, I want to do that. But for women, I didn't watch a woman's special until I was like 21.
mm,
And and there weren't, so I think it's also the number of people who do it. You know, growing up, I never would have thought of joining the NFL because it's all dudes. So with guys, you see Eddie Murphy, you're like, I want to do that. But for me, it was like
mm.
I was already in college by the time I was watching it, and I was like, yeah, it's probably too late. So it's a different, when you see someone who looks like you're like, oh, I can do that. But if it's all
Mm,
dudes, you're like, yeah, I'm good.
mm. And then back to the writing question real quick. Okay, so have you thought about writing? Like, have you started even kind of like writing for your own comedy special? Because I'm just only asking
Yeah,
that because it's so easy to do that now. It's so easy to put together your
yeah,
own special and just get out there and
yeah.
sell it and stuff. So,
Totally. I was thinking of doing an outdoor set and have it be a special, but I think I want to wait till indoor comes back. However, whenever that does happen, I do have the material ready for that.
hmm
I would love to film something just to get the material out there and done, because
hmm
that's the other thing is like when you're not filming, like Sam Morril, do you know him? Stand-up comedian.
yeah,
He's filmed like a bunch of YouTube specials, and every time he films, he can dump the material and move on. Whereas if you're a younger comic, you don't get those opportunities. you're just hanging on to material for 5 years. So I think getting in the practice of putting out your stuff, that's something I would like to get into. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's the great thing about the pandemic and stuff so far. Like basically, and then outdoor comedy, it's like you can still do all the jokes that you want to do. Like you can literally put together a special on your own and basically sell it
Yeah.
like on your own
Yeah.
and like become again and just gain more of your popularity. And then especially with somebody like
Yeah.
you who is already popular on YouTube, but because of Wildin' Out,
Yeah.
and then you also put your own stuff
Yeah.
together and stuff. So like I definitely can see that for you. So I hope that actually happens soon because I'm pretty sure it'll be some great material.
Yeah.
Before we go, I just want to know. Okay, I just want to know a few more things. Okay, one.
Okay.
If you could write for a classic TV sitcom, which sitcom would it be, and what episode, or how would you write out an episode?
Oh, classic TV sitcom. Does it have to be real people or could it be
It could be
cartoons?
it could be The Simpsons. Anything.
Um, this is pretty embarrassing, but like my favorite show is probably Family Guy. I'm literally so like I'm like a high school kid. I'm like, so Seth MacFarlane is like my hero. And that's like where all my comedy came from, was watching that. Obviously, it's like such a lame show, and people make fun of it, but I watch it.
No, it's not.
I'm trying to think, what would I do? Peter Griffin would try to. They're not that topical. That's more of like a South Park thing. Let's see. Lois would. Okay, Peter would. Okay, Lois would get employed by Peloton, and she would make everyone get on the Peloton lifestyle, and Peter would try to get rid of it. Then Brian and Stewie would. Okay, Brian would date a black girl, and it would go wrong. I don't think he's ever, because Brian's always like fucking it up with women. So then maybe he would say something stupid about Black Lives Matter, and then it would get ruined for him.
Yes.
I could see Brian
Perfect
doing
episode.
that. Yeah.
Perfect
Yeah.
episode.
And then it all comes together at the end or something like that.
yeah. Like I can see Brian like dating a black girl, thinking she's the one, and then telling her she's the one, but he makes it sound so racial. that she doesn't want to be with him anymore.
Because he's like such like a. He's like male feminist. He always says the wrong thing to women, and he does not respect them at all. But he says he does, and he thinks he's like the perfect liberal because he thinks and then he says the wrong thing all the time. So I think maybe something like that.
Definitely. Okay, so if you could put together your perfect comedy show, which comedy club would you pick, and what 3 comics would you work with?
So I would do it at New York Comedy Club because that's where I work the most in the city, on 24th Street when they're open. And 3 comics I would have, and in the whole world, any comedians?
Any comedians.
I would do Nico White, and I would also do. I guess I should go more famous. And then I would also do who's a comedian? Bonnie McFarlane.
Okay.
I don't know if you know them. Nico, Bonnie McFarlane, and me. And then I would do there's so many comedians. Maybe Ronnie Chang.
Okay. I can already tell. There's gonna be like one comic. There's gonna be one comic that's your friend that watches this, and he be like, "For real, you couldn't pick me?
Yeah.
Couldn't pick me out of all the people. Like it ain't like we do shows all the time together."
Ronnie gets the audience. Ronnie brings the audience in because he's famous, and then Nico is hilarious and up and coming, and then Bonnie is a mainstay of the team. So. That's how I
Okay.
did that. Also, after I get off of this, I was going to be a million people who I should have said, but I think they'll be okay.
Oh yeah, it'll be all right. It'll be all right. We're gonna end this with a thing that we'd like to call either or. We basically give you topics in regards to comedy, and you have to pick which one you prefer and stuff. Now these are your own preferences and stuff. You don't have to give us an answer that sounds politically correct or like you have to worry about pissing anybody off because these are just your picks and stuff. So we're gonna get started. All right.
Okay.
Comedy Central or National Lampoon?
National Lampoon because of Christmas Vacation and whatever else they did. They seem more humble. They're more humble, you know?
Okay. Alec Baldwin or Ric Flair?
Ric Flair, also more humble. Alec Baldwin, the Hilaria Baldwin thing, and he's been mean to a lot of people for many years. Ric Flair?
Okay.
No, still kicking, keeps going to the hospital, keeps being alive.
Yeah.
Woo!
Were you a big wrestling fan? Were you a big wrestling fan growing up?
No, not at all.
But you just
a lot
knew.
of him from Right to the Roast.
She was like, but I did a lot of research on Ric Flair, and he's an amazing person. Like,
That's all I have to say.
oh, if Ric Flair asked you on a date, would you break up with your boyfriend to go on a date with Ric Flair?
No, but I would cheat on him. I would say I would sneaky. I was sneaky. I wouldn't break up with anyone for one date, but I would sneak over. You know.
Yeah, it's only cheating if you're caught. All right, D. Ray Davis or Carlos Miller?
Carlos Miller, just because I know him more, and we worked on 2 shows together, and he's funny as fuck. And he called me Madison for a full year, and my real name's Madeline, and I was too afraid to say anything.
I don't know what's more wrong, like that you didn't correct him or that he said it for a full year.
Literally. And I think it was on Smash or Dash, like we were filming, and I was literally like, "It's not Madison, but I respect you so much that I won't say anything." And I don't want to be the white woman who's like, "It's Madeline." So, you know.
He
so
said,
"You
alright? You good with that, Madeline?"
Yeah.
She's like, first of all, that's not even me at all.
Right.
But hey, you know what? Do you, Carlos?
You.
I feel like you can be the 4th member of the 85 South show.
Oh my God, that would be crazy.
Actually, I would love to see you you gotta hit them up and see if you can actually do a show with them. You got to.
I feel like they would rip me to shreds because they're so funny, and I would, oh my God. But I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, no, but you can start like talking shit about people in the crowd and like totally win everybody over. They'll never see you coming.
Yeah.
Never see you coming.
That's true.
So.
That's true. I'll see what I can do.
Okay, so rewrite Soul Plane or rewrite Friday After Next.
I haven't seen either because I'm a fucking loser, but I'm gonna say Soul Plane.
Wait a minute, you've never seen Soul Plane or Friday After Next?
Sorry. No, I'm telling you, I'm a loser. I was raised in a very Caucasian household.
Have you seen any of the Fridays?
Any what?
Have you seen any of the Fridays?
No. I seen Friday the Halloween movie.
Oh my God! It's Friday the 13th, but like I guess in a way, like oh my God!
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
Like you're lucky they didn't ask you that on Wildin' Out. Like so, like
reenact
the scene from Friday. You'd be like, I'm out. Well, it was nice meeting you, Nick. Oh my God!
Don't for me, dog.
Hey, yeah, you know what?
I don't know what happened, but I missed a lot of culture growing up. That's all I have to say.
It's okay. It's okay. You got time now. You got plenty of time now to do it and stuff. So, but just put it on your to-do list for the next like 6 years or something like that.
Okay.
At some moment.
Easy
at
enough.
some moment.
Sounds good.
Okay. Jim Carrey or Zach Galifianakis?
Zach Galifianakis. Continues to be funny. Jim Carrey's gone into a little weird, philosophic realm. Realm in the past is a little too serious for me.
You know what? I would agree. I would agree. I think that's the problem with some comics. Like some comics, like after a while, they just don't want to be funny anymore, or they're trying to be funny but too serious at the same time.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, I don't get
agree.
that. I don't
get
that.
it.
Okay, 30 Rock or The Office?
I think 30 Rock is they're both really funny. I think The Office actually.
Yeah, I would pick The Office as well. Like 30, although 30 Rock's up there, but like I don't love 30 Rock as much as a lot of people do. Like I kind of didn't really get the concept of the show and why it lasted so long. So
some people love it, but The Office, anyone can pop in and watch and be like, "Oh, this is a funny show."
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, and then you can just pick any episode from The Office and like act it out in front of friends when you're drunk.
Totally.
So easier. Okay, pack out Caroline's for one weekend, or have that time of the week hit 1 million views in one episode.
Second one, easily.
She said because it's your podcast. But but packing out Caroline's on a weekend though, that's a huge honor as well.
That's a huge thing, but I would say that a podcast getting 1 million is so much harder. I could put flyers all throughout Manhattan and pack out that weekend, but podcasting, and then that shows, oh, I got fans. I could pack. Once you get the podcast 1 million, that's when you pack out Caroline's. Okay. Podcasting is so fucking hard that it's like easily would want to do that.
Yeah. Believe me, I know. Okay, last but not least, Maddy Smith or Richard Pryor.
So I obviously have to say Maddy Smith because she's still alive and she's still cooking. And that's that. What a terrible question. How am I supposed to pick between myself and Richard Pryor?
Oh man, trust me. I've asked like numerous comics that question, and like they get flustered every time. They'll be like, because your general reaction is to say like, Richard Pryor, but then you're like, wait a minute, why am I gonna say somebody else is better than me? I guess I can say myself. And stuff. So yeah, no. And I always tell comics, I was like, you always got to pick yourself. Like no matter what. Like that's like if you're a guy, a basketball player, and you're like, okay, who's better, you or Kobe Bryant? You can't really say Kobe Bryant, even though you know Kobe Bryant could kill you in a basketball court. But like I can score 5 points on Kobe. Like I just have that kind of confidence in myself and stuff. So, but I'm glad you picked you.
You have to like yourself at the end of the day. A lot of people don't support themselves, and it's scary.
Yeah, it's actually, that's a very good point. Like, because have you ever been talking to a friend and like they just talk so bad about themselves? You'd be like, dang, like really? Do you not like yourself that much? Like, what's up with you? Like, you're alive. You know this, right?
I know. It breaks your heart too. You're like, oh man, and my family too. It's so sad.
Oh man. Well, I want to thank you, Maddy, for doing this with us. I know you got to get out of here and go do some New York stuff. So, but thank you for doing this. Like, it's truly been an honor of mine to actually get to speak to you and pick your brain about comedy and just basically talk to a legend right now. I mean, not right now, but I'm sure in like 5 or 6 years, like you'll be the greatest white comic of all time.
And the white comedy's here and the black there. I'll be happy to be here.
Yeah. No, like it'll be you and then Gary Owen and stuff. So like you guys are neck and neck right now. So but But before we go, just tell us a little bit of information about your podcast, that time of the month, and when you release new episodes, and where we can find you at on social media.
Yes, for sure. So I'm on social media, all platforms at Maddy Smith. I post constantly funny clips, funny jokes, and then my podcast comes out weekly. That time of the week, it's out on all audio platforms on Thursdays. But if you really like me, it's on Mondays. It comes out on Patreon on video, which is just so much better than just listening to it. But if you don't like me that much, that's totally fine.
I'm sure not a lot of people say that to you and stuff. So you
Yeah.
I don't think you have to worry about that much. But this is We on the Last with Tyson Paul. Check us out weekly as we come out with new episodes and new interviews. We love Maddy. Please support her and all of her exclusive habits because she needs the money. And basically, like, we gotta make sure that, you know, she becomes a legend because we like to make good predictions here. So my name is Tyson Paul. Thank you guys, and remember to laugh at life because it's always funny. Thank you, and see you guys next.